share the broadcast. We are back. Little internet interruption, but we are back. Yes, we had internet interruption. Please, we had internet interruption, but we are back and direct. We are back. Please, what we are doing is highly spiritual. The devil fights. Every time, there is no time that he gave us breathing space, but it is our doggedness and our spiritual relentlessness that has commanded so much tremendous successes we have recorded so far for the past 7 years. We don't give up. The more the devil fights us, the more we come back. The more we fight back. The more we continue to push. We don't give up. We are live and direct. Share broadcast again. Share it again. The first broadcast went out. The first broadcast was interrupted by network. So we have to come back to continue with the broadcast. So it is important you share it again so that those who have missed the first one, they will be able to lay hold on the continuation of this very important broadcast. Share again, very important. Share again. Share it again. Share again. If you can hear me, indicate. If you can hear me, try and indicate. Yes, if you can hear me, if you can hear the sound from my own side, try and indicate. Yes. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. The first broadcast was interrupted and disconnected by network, and that is the network of darkness. But we are back. We don't give up. We are very hopeful that God will perfect what is started in the life of today, that we may have peace of mind and rest, that the killings in the southeast may stop, that different criminals who are hiding different cover to perform all manner of crime against our people, that they may be brought to justice, that the activities end, and that the common man may have peace of mind. The updates I brought to you, I'm going to repeat the update. I'm going to repeat them again. The last one here, about 47 minutes, is that appeal allowed and cross appeal not allowed. I'm going to take it from the top again. I'm going to take this update from the very top again. The first one we saw here is that court is in session, but our case is not mentioned. That was about one hour ago. After that, the case was mentioned, and then the lead counsel, Kanu Agabi, took the center stage to make a very strong advocacy for the relief of Nnamdi Kanu. And then the second update I brought to you was that there is hope That was about 1 hour ago. There is hope. Ago, we got this update. The next to it is that illegality was committed in Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's case. Illegality was committed in Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's case. This update came to the court. He was brought in by means of extraordinary rendition. He was brought in by means of extraordinary rendition. Due process was no longer bringing Mazi Nnamdi Kanu back to Nigeria. This update came from the court. The next one is that he was tried and acquitted in appeal court. This update is coming direct from the Supreme Court. Now, the next one is that the invasion of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's house was unlawful. That is referring to the 14th September Operation Python Dance 2. 14th of September. That was a last 2 years, over 2 years, about 3 years now, you know. Okay. I also said that it is irresponsible to invade his home, which is the palace of His Royal Majesty Eze Israel Kanu Eguku the first or the second, the second of Isama Furuku Ibeku, Omaya, Abia State. The other update, which was the last update for the past 48 minutes or 49 minutes, is that appeal is allowed and cross appeal not allowed. So if there is any other update, I am going to bring it to you. But one thing I want to assure you is that we are trusting God, that God will turn things around. That is our song. That is our prayer. That is our confidence. That is our confession. That is our faith. That is our stand. That God will turn things around. That God will bring an end to this injustice of 2 years plus. If you add his case and his prosecution of 2015, 2015, 2018, 2015, 2016, and he was released in 2017, he spent about 18 months in prison. If you add it up, it's about 4 years 4 years plus that he must have spent in solitary confinement since he started the very quest for the restoration of Biafra. It is enough. And we're asking God to turn things around for his good, to turn things around in his favor. That is our prayer. That is our stand. That is our belief. That is our faith. That is our confession. That is our prayer. Is our song. An update from one of the councils of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is coming. You can see on the screen an update coming from Barrister Aloy Ejimako. An update. Look at it on the screen. Very update is very, very unfortunate. This very update is very, very unfortunate. I said it is very, very unfortunate update that I'm seeing here. Very veritable, very, very unfortunate, very, very discouraging, very unexpected, very, very. And this also to point that without God finished. For those who don't value what it means to God, what it means to trust God, what it means to call God in such a time as this, for those who don't understand the impact spiritual or biblical influence in this quest, this goes a very long way to prove to you that all we have is God. All we have, what we have in this case, all that we have in this matter is the Most High God in heaven. Without Him, we are finished. Without Him, this is what this update is going to confirm again to every one of us. This is exactly what this update is confirming to us again. From time to time, it is confirmed to us. From time to time, we understand it. From time to time, we see it. This update again is confirming it to us that that without God in heaven, without the Most High God in heaven, that we are finished. That was why last year, 3 months, our church shut down in spiritual exercise, in prayers for Nnamdi Kanu. 3 consecutive months. We did not have service. 3 months, January, February, March 2022. Our church was under lock and key. And before the end of prayer, United Nations judgment came in the favor of Nnamdi Kanu, which many of them fought against. Which many of them fought against. Many of them kicked against what God used us to do last year. Some of these are shouting now. They were among the people that fought against that very United Nations judgment. They refused to announce it. They refused to talk about it because that judgment was not from them. Because it was not them that went to the United Nations to secure that judgment for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. They fought against it because they wanted to remain very relevant as lawyers in Nigeria. They wanted to remain very relevant. It was Bruce Fine. We called on God for 3 consecutive months, and God had us. And the judgment came. Instead of the lawyers of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu to shout about it and talk about it and take it to the Supreme Court and use it and make a very strong case in favor of Nnamdi Kanu, they decided to stand against it until Mazi Nnamdi Kanu gave a direction that they must talk about it, that they must broadcast it on Radio Biafra. They refused to broadcast it. They refused to talk about the United Nations judgment. And when that judgment was given, and the people judgment favored refused to talk about it, they suppressed it. What do you expect the UN to do? What do you expect the Nigerian government to do? These were people who are paid by the government to stand as a strong, formidable opposition to the purpose of God and the will of God and what God has done. 2022. You can read it now. Hope you can see it now I hope you are seeing it very clear on the screen. I hope you're seeing it now. That is Aloy Jimako. For some time now, both of them have been quarreling. Aloy Jimako and Barrister Jofo, two of them, they have been quarreling openly. Quarreling. This one will write against the other one, and the other one will reply publicly. These are people that say they are legal team, they are representing in such a matter of great and global importance, of generational and spiritual importance and value. They will come out. They will be quiet. Oh, you said this. No, I didn't say it. It was you. You are this. You are that. These are what learned people are doing. People that they are representing Nnamdi Kanu in the court of, and they are fighting against. Of course, they are fighting against themselves is because of our prayer. We pray to God and say, all the corrupt lawyers in the legal team, they must be exposed and they must disgrace themselves publicly. Those of you that were with us in the course of our prayer last year, you can bear me witness. For 3 months, we kept on praying it here in the book of Genesis, chapter 7, verse 11. We kept on Psalms 55. We kept on praying. Genesis 11, verse 7 and 8. We kept on praying. The book of Hosea, chapter 4, verse 12. With the book of Micah, chapter 5, verse 12. We kept on that God will expose all the legal team who are claiming that they're the lawyers of Nnamdi Kanu, but they're going behind to sabotage his release, that God will expose them, every one of them. And God has been disgracing them one after the other. They are now fighting against themselves openly because it is answer to prayers, that you may know who these people are. God used us, Bruce Fein, the United Nations. It was Bruce Fein that filed the documents. It was Bruce Fein that went to the judgment. And when the lawyers in Nigeria, instead of them to appreciate what God has done, they say, oh, because it's not from a Jofo, oh, because it's not from our lawyer Jimako, oh, because it's not coming from this person, because the judgment is not from this so and so lawyer. They will not talk about it, or they will stand against it. But this judgment was in the favor of Nnamdi Kanu. This judgment was in the favor of Biafrans. Still, the people that call themselves to be representatives, the legal team of Nnamdi Kanu here in Nigeria, a good number of them fought very vehemently. We intensified in prayers, and other people kept on making different efforts. The gallant men and the group of Madam Bridget Okafor, many of them are fighting against. They kept on pushing. They kept. We, in the prayer angle, we kept on praying and pushing. Finally, that judgment came to the public knowledge. They didn't want it to come to the public knowledge. They didn't want you to hear about that judgment. They didn't want it. They used witchcraft. They used different kind of sacrifices to cast a spell that the people that supposed to fight and stand with men and use that very judgment to our own advantage and to the advantage of Nnamdi Kanu, the same people began to fight against themselves. What time? We stood in the gap, and the victory came. The judgment came. Tell me what they have achieved. Tell me what they have achieved. You see the update now. This is the last and the latest update, and this very last and latest update is telling that with God, without God, heaven, as a people, we're gone without God. For those of you that are running around thinking that, oh, don't worry, our governor, our senator is there, they will do something, forget about it. We have lawyers, we have legal team, forget about it. If not with God, legal team can do nothing. Remove God and you see what happens. Remove God and they will kill Nnamdi Kanu, but they will not kill him because we are praying. Remove God. Legal team that cannot be able to secure his medical attention. Legal team that could not be able to secure his proper medical attention up to now, more than 2 years. All the medical need of the Kanu, 5% have not been met for the past 2 years. Yet, we have legal team. You have team. Update, grammar. I told you people, this is not about physical. Yeah, physical is important, but the root is spiritual. The root. If you don't handle the matter from the root, you can't get any physical result. It's not even in shooting gun. It doesn't matter any police van you're born. If you like, go to police barrack and set it ablaze. Nigerian government doesn't care. Move them. It cannot move them to release Nnamdi Kanu. It can never move them. What they will do, the money is there now. They will go and renovate again, or they rebuild it. All the dead policemen in the barrack, one is gone. They will place either their children on scholarship or something. That's all. That's all. Or they will compensate the family with 2 million or 10 million. That's all. They move on because there's enough money to compensate the families of the dead policemen or army men. That alone cannot bring out Nnamdi Kanu. If you like, set the whole village of Imo State ablaze. If you like, go there and bomb everywhere at Anambra. It doesn't move Britain. It can't move them. They will send money to rehabilitate some places and rebuild some places. That's all. And maybe those who are highly connected, they will now pay some monetary compensation to their families. That's all. And the country will move on in war and corruption and abomination. It is God. And so we are still calling him to turn. Only can turn around. Only him. You can see the update coming from our lawyer Jimako, the special lawyer of Nnamdi Kanu, coming from him. This is his own update. He's on the screen. I am reading it. I want you to see it. I read. Look at it. He said, sadly, that's his first word. Sadly, the Supreme Court upheld the appeal against MNK's discharge, but it also held that the invasion of his house, revocation of his bail, and rendition were all unlawful. The court has remitted the case to the Federal High Court to deal with it in line with the rulings it made. So the Supreme Court now has sent the case back, and I believe that is the Court of Justice Binta Nyako. The Supreme Court has ruled. Some of the ruling of the Supreme Court is in the favor of now. The only thing is that it did not discharge him, or it did not release him to go. Okay? The Supreme Court, look at it again. Sadly, the Supreme Court upheld the appeal against discharge of Nnamdi Kanu. Against his, the Supreme Court did not say that Nnamdi Kanu committed a crime. I want you to understand it. I want to understand it very, very well. Let me clarify this. That's why we are on air, that you may understand, that you may not lose hope. What the Supreme Court did was that it held the appeal that was against the discharge of Nnamdi Kanu. The appeal that the Attorney General of the Federation made at the discharge of Nnamdi Kanu. That appeal was not against the ruling of the Court of Appeal, because the ruling of the Court of Appeal was that Nnamdi Kanu did not commit any crime. The ruling of the Appeal Court last year, at October 2022, was that Nnamdi Kanu did not commit any. The court exonerated every charges, and the appeal last year said that no other court should try case Nnamdi Kanu in Nigeria. The ruling of the appeal court last year, that no court in Nigeria listen to any case. No court should try him. He is discharged and acquitted. Okay? So the appeal court last year decided to uphold the judgment of the United Nations. Technically, they upheld it because the appeal court ruling last year came after the United Nations judgment. The United Nations judgment set Nnamdi Kanu free and said that he has not committed a crime, that the Nigerian government must release him immediately and pay him adequate compensation, that he is not a criminal, that his group, IPOB, is not a terrorist organization, that the group was duly registered in 2012 by Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. That was the judgment of the United Nations. A judgment of the United Nations. The next judgment that was in the favor of Nnamdi Kanu was the judgment of the appeal court last year, December last year, 2022, 13th of October. And the United Nations judgment came, I told you people that the end of the case of Nnamdi Kanu in the court of Nigeria has come, because the court of Nigeria cannot deliver aid to the judgment of the United Nations, because United Nations, which is a global organization, Nigeria is signatory to all the charter of the United Nations. Nigeria is a party to it. Nigeria is a signatory to them. The United Nations Charter on Human Rights, Self-Determination, which is what Nnamdi Kanu is looking for. United Nations support it, and Nigeria signed that very document. Nigeria is to it. For there is no way the United Nations will give Nnamdi Kanu, and the Nigerian court will come and say, no, it's not, it's a lie. Obey it. We cannot accept it. That was why the appeal court of Nigeria decided to rule in the favor of Nnamdi, because the judgment came. Now, appeal court ruled in the favor of Nnamdi Kanu last year. The Nigerian government decided to challenge the ruling appeal court, not disagreeing with the striking out of all the charges. The Nigerian government only appealed that Nnamdi Kanu should not be judged. That's the only appeal that they sent to the Supreme Court. But the Nigerian government did not say no, that the charges that the appeal court struck out is not true, or is not real, or is contrary to the law. Accepted it, that the appeal court struck out all the charges against Nnamdi Kanu. The Nigerian government did not appeal against striking out those charges. The appeal court also said that no other amendment should go over the case of Nnamdi Kanu. They should not amend any other charge against him. Okay? That was the judgment, part of the judgment of the appeal court last year. The Nigerian government only went to the Supreme Court to say, no, we don't agree with the for discharging him, not with appeal court for striking out, from stopping all the court in Nigeria from trying Nnamdi Kanu further. The only thing that the Nigerian government went to the Supreme Court to do was to say, no, don't allow Nnamdi Kanu to go. Not that Nnamdi Kanu committed a crime, not that, no, he's broken the law, because they couldn't prove it. Then I said, okay, the appeal court has given, but we don't want him to go. That's all. We don't want him to go. Let him remain where he is. Not that the judgment is not true. What the Supreme Court has done today, the Supreme Court only upheld the very appeal against the release of Nnamdi Kanu, not committed any crime. And the Supreme Court did not say that Nnamdi Kanu committed any crime. The Supreme Court today say that Nnamdi Kanu broke any law. The Supreme Court did not say Nnamdi Kanu broke any law, or that he's a terrorist. What said today? The only thing that the Supreme Court said is that they agree with the appeal that the Nigerian government filed not to release Nnamdi Kanu. That's all. So the second thing the Supreme Court did was to send them back to the Federal High Court, where the case of Nnamdi Kanu was being tried before the appeal court. And that very Federal High Court is the one that Justice Nyako is the justice, or the court. The Supreme Court now sent the matter of Nnamdi Kanu back to where the matter went from. From there, the matter went to the appeal court. From the appeal The matter went to the Supreme Court today. The matter is going back to that same Federal High Court of Justice Binta Nyako. So, in other words, there is nothing they can do about Nnamdi Kanu. That's why they keep on from here to there, from this court to another court, from another court, from another court back again. They now rotate and go back like a turntable, like a tennis, merry-go-round. From Federal Court to Appeal Court, from Appeal Court to Supreme Court, now from Supreme Court back to the Federal High Court. That is what has happened today. Now, look at the second line of this post. But it also held that the invasion of his house, revocation and rendition were all unlawful. This is victory. You must understand it now. Now, listen. Listen very carefully with what I'm about to say. You see this line of the judgment of the Supreme Court? You see that line? The line has said that, number one, the invasion of the house of Kanu, the revocation of his bail, and the extraordinary rendition from Kenya to Nigeria were lawful. This is the judgment of the Supreme Court today. This is judgment of the Supreme Court today. How did Nnamdi Kanu come back to Nigeria 2 years ago? He came through nation. And if anybody comes back to any country, that very means rendition. That country should not look into the matter of the person, because that person did not come back in the right way. The government did not bring that person back in that way. The due process, which is extradition. They're supposed to extradite Nnamdi Kanu, not ordinarily rendition him. What they were supposed to do to bring him back from face charges. What they were supposed to do was to extradite him. They're supposed to extradite him. Okay? They were supposed to extradite Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya, and from Kenya to Nigeria, not extraordinary rendition Nnamdi Kanu. So the government, in bringing Nnamdi Kanu back to Nigeria, they failed the law. That is what the Supreme Court said today. The Supreme Court said that the government did not follow the law. The Supreme Court is Nigerian court. You must understand this thing. It is still victory. You must understand it. I'm going to explain later. It is victory for the Supreme Court to have said today that the extraordinary rendition of Nnamdi Kanu was unlawful. Now that the case is going back to Federal High Court, where Justice Binta Nyako is presiding, Justice Binta Nyako nothing contrary to what the court said today. Supreme Court is the Supreme Court is the highest court. They not rule against the judgment of the higher court. The case of Nnamdi Kanu has ended today, technically, in Nigeria. Listen to what I'm saying. Oh, listen that you may understand it. That's to follow up. The case of Nnamdi Kanu has officially and technically ended today in Nigeria, because Supreme Court have said that the extraordinary rendition of Kanu was not lawful. It was not lawful. It means now that the matter is going back to the Federal High Court, where Justice Binta Nyako is sitting. Justice Binta Nyako court is lower court. Her court is a lower court. Her court cannot rule anything contrary to the judgment of the Supreme Court today. Therefore, that is the end of the case of Nnamdi Kanu, because the process that brought him back to Nigeria for him to face trial, the Supreme Court, the highest court in Nigeria today, that process was not according to the law, that the Nigerian government broke the law. Therefore, what they are supposed to do to Nnamdi Kanu is to take him back to Kenya. Then from Kenya, he will go back to Britain, because he had traveled to Kenya on British passport. It was through with his British passport that he traveled all the way from Britain to Kenya. Before he was now extraordinarily rendition. And now that the Supreme Court said that what the Nigerian government did was not lawful, Justice Binta Nyako cannot go contrary to the judgment of the Supreme Court today. In other words, at the end of the day, Nnamdi Kanu will be released. So the case of Nnamdi Kanu has ended today. Technically, it has ended today in Nigeria. But as I've explained some minutes ago, the case ended last year between the 30th of March and that was when the case ended all over the world. But because most of the lawyers in Nigeria who are the representatives of Nnamdi Kanu, who are legal team of Nnamdi Kanu, they refuse to talk about very huge judgment, that United Nations judgment in favor of Nnamdi Kanu. They fought against it. Because it was not them that went to UN to secure that judgment. Pride and echo that the judgment did not come from their effort. It was Bruce Fein in America. Man, do you know how many millions that was paid to fast track that very judgment? And of course, the prayer force, the spiritual behind it. And that judgment came. Instead of the Nigerian lawyers of who are Stefan Yejofo, Pastor Lawyer Jemako, senior advocate of Nigeria, Michael Zekome. Instead of that, a team and say, oh, we have a judgment from the UN. There is a judgment from the UN. The Court of Justice, they take it there because the matter was still there when that judgment was delivered in the favor of Nnamdi Kanu. They were to take that very judgment to the Court of Justice and tell her, my Lord, there is a judgment from the United Nations that has freed and released our client. What do you have to say, my Lord, Justice Netanyahu? We have to say this UN judgment. What do you have to say about it? And you will see you will see how Justice Binta Nyako would have been confused in the court. Because what will she say? The world is watching at her, and the UN will watch what she said against the judgment. And you would have seen how that matter would have turned in the court. The lawyers, because they wanted to maintain their pride. Him. No, it is not you. No, it's me. I'm the lead counsel. No, I am the one that Nnamdi Kanu speaks to. No, I am the one that is not trusted. No, I am the one just dragging for position. They refuse to talk about that. Sat on it. Radio Biafra did not broadcast it. How can you reason it? Can you imagine it? That the whole Radio Biafra that was established by Nnamdi Kanu could not broadcast that very judgment that the United Nations in his favor. They refused to broadcast it. The IPOB platform, they did not do it. The lawyers, they didn't talk about it. It was later when Nnamdi Kanu sent the message, he got the information of the judgment that the United Nations gave in his favor. And he said, what? And nobody is talking about it. The lawyers were not talking about it. They were not discussed on IPOB platforms. He now gave a message through Barrister Lawyer Jemako and said, tell the lawyers to start talking about that very UN judgment and let the platforms of IPOB and Biafra begin to broadcast it. By then, it was many months had gone when that judgment was released. They were mentioning it, they were mentioning it with biasness of mind. They were talking about it with biasness of because they are not the one that secured the judgment. But these are people that claim that free. These are people that claim that they are going to court to release him. Now, God went to the highest court in the whole world and released him, and they refused to talk about it because of corruption. And today they are pretending that I am the best lawyer. No, I am the one that is truthful. No, Ejiofor, you are not the one. No, hello, Ejimaka, I am the one. No, Zekome, no, you are not. Just quarreling like little children. Quarreling like little babies. I am explaining this very update that you may understand. The Supreme Court also ruled in the favor of Nnamdi Kanu today. This judgment also is in his favor because, as the Supreme Court has ruled today, that how his house was invaded in Operation Python and 2, it was unlawful. How they revoked the bail of Nnamdi Kanu, it was unlawful. And also how they brought him back from Kenya to Nigeria, it was unlawful. Extraordinary rendition. Therefore, the matter has gone back to the court of Justice Binta Nyako. Justice Binta Nyako is not going to give any judgment that is contrary to the judgment of the Supreme Court. The only judgment that Justice Binta Nyako is supposed to give now is to discharge and acquit Nnamdi Kanu and mandate the DSS to release him immediately. That is the only judgment that's supposed to come from Court of Justice Binta Nyako. That is the judgment that's supposed to come from her. So they have sent the case back. Look at the concluding part of that post. The court has remitted the case to the Federal High Court to deal with it in line with the rulings it made. The Supreme Court has remitted the case. The Supreme Court today has remitted this very judgment, this very case, to the Federal High Court, which is the Court of Justice Binta Nyako at Abuja, to deal with it, deal with the case of Nnamdi Kanu, according to the judgment that the Supreme Court has made today. So Justice Binta Nyako cannot go against this judgment that the Supreme Court has made today. And that judgment, you must understand, the one we are looking at is number one, that the invasion of the house of Nnamdi Kanu, I think that's a 2017 September, Operation Python has that invasion was unlawful. It was not according to law. Number two, that the revocation of his bail, they revoked his bail, that he cannot, be bailed. That the revocation of his bail was not according to the law. Also, that his extraordinary rendition from Kenya to Nigeria, which has put him in the DSS custody for the past 2 years, that was also unlawful. So tell me any other thing that the court is going to talk about. Case is closed today. As I said some minutes ago, the case of Nnamdi Kanu in the Nigerian court has ended today. It has ended today. So any other thing they are going to do at the court of Justice Binta Nyako is to finalize the steps of releasing him. That is what they're going to do now. Is to finalize the step of releasing him. That's all. But the Supreme Court was supposed to do today was to release Nnamdi Kanu and tell him to go. That was what the Supreme Court was supposed to do. So the Supreme Court didn't want to do it so that the justices will not be, the government will not attack them or send DSS after them or, transfer them or make them to retire. You see, they were scared. They were not bold enough, but they were very bold in the other ruling that they gave. They were very bold though, to say that the invasion of Nnamdi Kanu was unlawful. The revocation of his bail was unlawful. His extraordinary rendition from Kenya to Nigeria was unlawful. It is a very bold judgment today, and it's in the favor of Nnamdi Kanu. The same thing that the United Nations judgment said is what the appeal court said last year, and it is exactly what the support has said today. And that is in the favor of Nnamdi Kanu. It is in his favor. So I want you to be happy and I want you to be very, very excited because this very judgment is in the favor of Mazi Nnamdi, and it is in the favor of Biafrans and Igbos all over the world. You have to be very, very glad and very, very happy. Very, very glad and very excited. I'm going to check if there's any other update from anywhere, and I'm going to bring it to your attention.